I have a harder time remembering my time with the Xbox 360 than any other console. It was the type of console that I just couldn't bring myself to put a lot of hours or care into, despite how many great games were released on it. I grew up a PlayStation guy, and something just felt off about repping Xbox. I do remember a phase I was in getting cheaper older titles for it, and either letting them collect dust or give them a couple plays and forget about them. Condemned Criminal Origins was one of the latter, which I suppose could be considered a compliment. I gave it a little bit of time, but not nearly enough, so while searching for some older survival horror games and finding out this was on PC, it felt like fate in becoming the next forgotten game to explore. You know the drill. It's 2020, and we're here to see if the game still holds up and try to figure out what happened to make this a forgotten title. Condemned Criminal Origins was developed by Monolith Productions in 2005. They've also made titles such as Fear and Shadow of Mordor, and on that alone, their scope is exactly in the area I'm interested in. The inspirations going into it were the films Silence of the Lambs and Seven. The premise is cool as fuck. You play as Ethan Thomas, a detective sent to check out a crime scene that very quickly turns south. You're framed for the murder of two officers by a famous killer and, peer pressured into going on the run instead of explaining the situation. That, I believe, seems very explainable.
Shot with your weapon, and you will be blamed for their deaths.
Ridiculous. I'll just tell them.
What? Tell them the truth? They have already decided the truth.
This is insane. I can't just give up the Bureau.
It's already been taken from you. Now join me and help yourself.
Open up, it's the police.
Damn. Take your bag and head across to the metro station. I will meet you later.
I wouldn't mind this so much if the police became some sort of mob you face, but all this really does is serve as an excuse to get Ethan to move from one place to another when necessary. Anyways, you go to various locations to try and piece together the story and find the man that framed you. Shit gets pretty real pretty quickly as Ethan is engaged by feral homeless people that will grab damn near anything they can around them to take you or each other out. It's a non-stop bloodbath. There's even unreloadable guns that you have to click the R button to see how many bullets you have remaining. Finding the same gun you're using makes you abandon what you have to pick that up, making wielding guns a powerful gamble I appreciated a lot, operating in a good way to keep this from becoming a generic first-person shooter. Guns aren't as necessary as they would seem though. There's not really any bosses besides the end of the game, and there isn't much of a difficulty climb. Plus, if someone is wielding a gun, they will eventually run out of bullets, and if you're too impatient for that, you have your long-range taser that gives you the time to take the weapon from them. All this as well as countless health packs and plenty of checkpoints. Melee combat is the highlight of the game. You can pluck weapons from just about any corner, and they all have their own level of damage, block, speed, and reach, allowing you to mix up your gameplay the way you want. The fire axe was my go-to, long range and good damage despite being fairly slow and awkward to block with. The last weapon you can use is by far the best. Ethan has the kick of fucking doom. The sweet chin music of kicks. I don't know what kind of martial arts this guy was taught, but holy shit. He's definitely that kind of guy at parties that puts his legs behind his head without anyone bringing up any kind of reason for him to do so, and that's badass and strange at the same time. Ethan Thomas is quite a double-edged sword. You have these devices, kind of like the Batman or Witcher detective features that let you analyze blood or magic marker dick drawings on the wall, fingerprints, identify dead people, etc. Sometimes this was done really well, but most of the time I feel like it led to Ethan grasping onto straws that just conveniently worked out. And the worst part of the feature was just how much it held your hand throughout. Once you get locked into these detective areas, the game becomes a point-and-click Newgrounds game, which, for a detective game, I was hoping for a little more. They all just somehow don't have anything to really move the story. And for a guy on the run from the Bureau, why even investigate some of these things? Is investigating just in your blood? Does it drive you? I think there's far too much going on to be worried about that, man. The horror aspect of this was hit or miss for me. The pathing of the enemies felt very natural and realistic. They don't run and hide in a scripted fashion, so sometimes these dudes will just jump out at you in the most unexpected locations. Plus, littering them in when you need to backtrack through areas you've already been is excellent. These dudes will even run past windows, break glass, throw things behind you, always keeping you on edge. Impressive AI for a 2005 game. The bad of this is just how little variety there is for enemies present. I can take a copy-paste of a dude, but 90% of them all operate the exact same way. The only difference I noticed were these guys that sometimes crawl. If they wanted to just do the feral homeless thing, that's cool, but there's some borderline House of the Dead looking dudes picking up fire axes and swinging them. It just feels odd. For the 6-hour gameplay, there were quite a lot of mystery elements that pulled me in, like who the fuck is this guy and why is he so shady? Why am I being framed in the first place? What is this special power our main character seems to have? There's so much going on, and I believe most of the questions got answered in an acceptable fashion, as well as ending with enough questions leading into the sequel game that I may or may not play. This is a game I feel is a little more average than the impression of it I had in my mind before. It's still a pretty fun game, and I recommend it for fans of survival horror, but it's not an essential to the genre or anything. If you want a little spook, but also want to bash someone over the head with a gas pipe, this is a great pickup. I think the game only being on Xbox 360 and PC might have hurt its ability to rise in popularity. That, and it didn't bring anything that new to the table, breaking it from any kind of iconic, lasting claim. But hey, not every game is trying to be that, so it is what it is. Thanks for watching, guys. I have been in a big horror mood lately, so expect more Forgotten and Strange Games videos among these lines. I've been thinking about discussing movies, anime, or manga too, but I'm gonna knock out some of these games first. Give a like, comment, and subscribe if you want, and I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.